Oh, a nerd! Great!
Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it.
Hey guys, today I want to talk about a buff dragon variant that I have put together that uses some odd pieces that most decks usually don't run. And in this video I want to talk about my experience with it, how it's done so far, what I want it to do, what it has done, things of that nature, and then I'll just break down my general thought process on why some cards are in here and why some cards aren't. So while I'm talking, I'm going to be having a gameplay video play in the background, and I will just speak over it. So with that said, let's go ahead and dive into it. So the first thing that we'll notice on the list is that I play the Netera engine. And I do that because the one play point spell, Netera's Future, I feel is a fairly good card, both in terms of it's a one play point that gives you 2 trees. So late game, if you already have a tree on board, it's a 3 play point, draw 2 effectively, which is the same thing as the Mermaid or the Dragon's Awakening. Just card draw, get you, digging into your deck. And then the 3 play point follower, I choose to play her instead of Ignis Dragon. And the reason I do that is because I think Ignis right now just doesn't feel very good. I can understand playing him in aggro decks where you actually can get off his fanfare effect where you summon him, draw 2, and he evolves. Because Dragon really, unless you play the buff engine, Dragon has next to no way of getting cards. Right now there are no just generically good draw cards. And so I don't play Ignis Dragon for that reason, and also because the way the format is right now, the popular decks like Forest and Shadow, and even Sword sometimes, they play a lot of cheap followers, 1, 2, 3 play point cost followers, and Dragon, usually your turns 1, 2, and 3 are spent not doing a lot. And so with this variant, the thought process is to have ways to, either fight for the board early on through Phylene and Dragoon, or to, just prevent you from taking damage. The Guardian, Bell Ringing Angel is in here. I call her Ding Dong for short. Just ways to help you stay alive and get to the point where your deck can start doing the things that it's meant to do. And if you are able to, on turn 3, fuse the 3 play point follower with the Netera spell, you still get the ramp on 3, plus you get a 2/2 follower. And if you had time to set up the turn prior on turn 2, if you didn't have Oracle or something, and you already have a tree on board, she's going to enter as a 3/3 with Rush. So she can immediately potentially answer something. If your opponent has stuff on board, it's going to force them to probably trade into her on their next turn. And so it can just preserve your life total while getting the same effect. So I choose to play those cards in here instead of cards like Ignis Dragon. Another thing that is on the list is I do play 1 copy of Remelia. She is a legendary Dragoncraft follower that really doesn't see a lot of play, and I do understand why. It is, pretty off meta. She doesn't really do a lot for the aggro version of the deck. She doesn't go face or, give you anything like that. So easy to see why she's not played there. Regular Buff Dragon doesn't play it because regular Buff Dragon has also turned to more aggro. I play her as a 1-of. I was playing 2, but the times where she got off of her effect on a target that was helpful versus times she sat in my hand and really did nothing. I figured in most cases I need more card draw when I get to the late game, and so I was playing 2 of her, but I cut her down to 1 because I do think 1 is still very valuable. I did cut her down to 1, and I took Dragon's Awakening up to 3 because that was at 2. Because with Remelia in your hand, you can play her, and she can potentially buff those dead cards that you get early on. You know, if you get like a turn 1 or turn 2 Dragoon, or Prophetic Dragon, or Mermaid, something like that. If she happens to hit them with her effect, her strike effect is when she attacks, she gives a Dragoncraft follower in your hand 2 defense and rush and bane. And so that immediately takes any cards that were originally dead in your hand and makes them so that their effects will activate if you play them. So having a 1 of her in here, especially as a 4 play point, you know, she herself has rush and bane. And so on turn 4, you know, if you do get Oracle on turn 2, when you have 4 play points, when your turn rolls around, she's good to help kind of answer any, you know, potential big followers or just clean up the board, things like that. So I do think 1 of her, especially in this deck, a more tempo-oriented version, she fits quite nice. The next thing would be cards that aren't here. The most surprising combo is I don't run the Brutal Rowan combo. While that combo is very, very good, and both of those followers are very good, I wanted to try a build without them. And with everything else that I play in here, there is just no room to squeeze them in. But that is okay, because between Galmiex, Drake, and Gondagoza, those will be the cards that close the game out for you. Depending on how many times you can evolve your Celestial Dragoon, you know, you can give that +1/+1 to all Dragoncraft followers in your deck, and so Galmiex slowly gets bigger, Drake slowly gets bigger, same with Gondagoza. And, you know, if you get 2 Dragoons off and you slam Gondagoza down as a 10-9 follower and evolve him, you know, that's 12 face damage right there. And so if you have a successful turn where Galmiex goes off and you hit your opponent in the face for 7 or 8 damage, and then the next turn you play Gondagoza, you know, if they can't heal all that, that can very easily be a 2-turn kill. So this deck relies more on those cards closing out the game and getting them buffed up and having the draw power to get to them as soon as you can. It has, so far in games that I've played, it has done pretty well. It fares its own against Shadow. If you get the cards to stop the early forest aggression, it does pretty well into forest as well. I will say with the Shadow matchup, though, it is definitely skill-based and who can hit their combos first, but you know, what deck in this rotation isn't like that? It does struggle against both Haven classes, not so much Ward Haven, but Heal Haven is a real pain, but I think Haven is just Dragon's natural enemy to begin with, because all Dragon wants to do is hit you in the face, and all Haven wants to do is stop their face from being smacked, either through a bunch of heal cards or through a bunch of wards. So Haven is generally the deck's toughest matchup, but most everything else, as long as you get good cards and play smart, the deck does fairly well. I do wish I had put it together in time when they were doing the Omen Cup, the rotations, because I would have liked to have tried it in a more consistent competitive scene where every game was either Forest or Shadow pretty much. Because when you take it onto ladder, the decks you find are not always as competitive. We'll say it that way. But overall, I'm pretty happy with the deck, and this is just kind of me explaining my thought process on it. In the background, there's a game that I played earlier with it, playing. And then after this, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and upload a whole series of videos, wins and losses, to kind of display how well the deck did. And so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up here and get started on working on my series that I will post that has multiple games of gameplay. And so, as Galmiex always says,
Kiss my ash!
Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Keep my head up when I act, head up, that's a fact. Never looking back, I'ma keep myself on track. Keep my head up, staying strong, always moving on. Feel I don't belong, tell my thoughts to move along.